Hello, we're still looking at people and businesses or human resources, and this is Unit 2 motivation. There is quite a lot of crossover between Unit 1 and Unit 2. I think generally this section, people and business, has the most crossover between the Unit 1 and the Unit 2 sections because a lot of the key principles when you're looking at small businesses also apply to big businesses and vice versa. But I'll just go through everything that you need for the Unit 2 section so that you don't need to rewatch some videos. So this was taken from the Unit 1 section, but it's relevant for this as well. So why is motivation important? So motivated employees, they work harder, they tend to make fewer mistakes as well, they care about their work, they take pride in their work, they offer better quality, better customer service, politer to customers, more helpful. They often take fewer days off as well because they're more loyal, I suppose, and motivated with the business. That maybe even if they have a slight cold, they'd struggle in and try to be there for the business. And they're also less likely to leave as well. So when a business has very motivated staff, it suggests that they're usually quite happy to work there. And if you have fewer people leaving, you're reducing your training costs of the training people for induction courses or recruiting new people, which can be a costly process. And also, this is a new thing that they're talking about. There's a lot of labour turnover, that's what we call it when people leave. There's a lot of labour turnover in quite big companies, and one of the dangers that you get in big companies is that you get a loss of knowledge. So you get they're actually calling it now company amnesia or business amnesia, so where there've been decisions made in the past but none of those people are currently working at the organisation anymore, so they can't really explain the decision making processes or the trial and error process that they've been through with certain products before. So you lose a lot of skills and knowledge when someone leaves an organisation. And all of these things mean that you can get lower average costs, which is obviously good, better profit margins, more satisfied customers willing to pay a higher price, more customers, more revenue, all of those good things are happening. So we know we want motivated employees, but how do we achieve it? So we're going to have a look at some of the non-monetary techniques first, and then we'll look at some of the monetary techniques. So training programs, these are really important. We've just looked at those in a previous video, but either on the job or off the job training to improve the employee's skills or knowledge, and this can make employees feel valued and feel like they can do their jobs better. I think one of the most demotivating things for somebody is feeling like you're not very good at something and you're not doing a very good job. I'm sure you've probably got subjects where you find them really, really challenging, and think about how you feel about going into that classroom, going into that exam, if you know it's really hard, if you don't feel like you're doing a very good job. Now that can happen in the workplace as well, but if you give someone training and help them do their job, then they're going to feel a lot better about it. However, it can be expensive, especially off the job training. And remember from the training video that I made before, once someone's trained up, they could just leave the organisation, so you've spent a lot of money on them. Another non-monetary technique is to give people responsibility, giving employees ownership over an area of the business so they can make those decisions, sometimes called autonomy as well, the power to make your own decisions. It makes the employee feel very valued and trusted, and that can be very motivational. However, you've got to make sure that the employee can handle that extra responsibility. It could, if it's too much, it could be very stressful for that person, and it could actually demotivate that person if they don't have the right skills to take on that responsibility. So this is one of those ones that you'd probably want to back up with training as well. Okay, another method of motivating your employees is thinking about your style of leadership and style of management. Okay, so we're going to look at two styles in the GCSE course, and they are autocratic, which I've got a picture of here, and we're going to look at another one. I'm just quickly going through that. The other one is democratic, which we've got a picture representing democratic. So as you can see, I've got a picture of the House of Commons. So this is representing a democratic leadership style. So this is where you have collective decision making. So there's, as we can see here, this is, I think, a very old picture, because I think that's Tony Blair there. So this would be a very old picture of the Houses of Parliament and the House of Commons. But as you can see, it wasn't just Tony Blair making all the decisions. Lots of other MPs here debating key issues as well. It's really a kind of collective effort to come to decisions. Whereas the autocratic leadership style, I've got a picture here of the North Korean army. So any army is pretty autocratic. You have a leader, they make decisions, the foot soldiers have to follow the decision making. But I've chosen North Korea particularly because it's one of those countries where you have a very autocratic leadership style there in their political system, and one person at the top making lots of decisions for people and very little input from other people. So this is a definition. Managers, an autocratic management style is where managers believe in taking all the decisions and they pass the instructions to the workers. So workers are meant to obey those instructions. Problems with this, though, the group become very dependent on the leader because the leader's always making all the decisions. So they kind of have to wait for the leader to speak to know what to do. And it can be very, very demotivational and demotivating. And because people become really dissatisfied, they feel like their views and opinions aren't valued and they aren't listened to, and it can cause this lack of cohesion. So there's often a them and us attitude. So the leadership are them, and the workers, the general workers, are us, and this can cause really bad communication problems and lots of misunderstandings and possibly even trade union action. And also, if you don't give people power and responsibility and you're always making the decisions for them, they always need that supervision. So you've got to have lots of managers checking that everybody's following the rules and everyone's doing their job. So it's very expensive. And ultimately, it tends to lead to poor levels of motivation. Now, there's one thing to say about this leadership style. It's actually really good in times of crisis, because in terms of crisis, you often just need a leader that's making clear decisions, making the decisions quite quickly as well. Whereas the other type of leadership style or management style, the democratic style, one of its downsides is the decisions tend to take a long time to get made. So this is why we use this in the army or armed forces, because they're usually dealing with times of crisis. So they need quick decision making and they need everybody to be following one set of instructions. So democratic leadership style, when you have managers who involve the workers in decision making, even if they're less senior. Employees are more likely to agree with the decision if they've had input into that decision and they understand the decision making process, even if maybe it wouldn't have been their first choice. They're more likely to go along with the decision, so that can be helpful for periods of change when new technology maybe has been introduced. Employees also are a source of really good ideas, so it's good to find out their opinions because they could suggest something that's brilliant. And usually your lower down employees work most closely with customers as well, so they're very important. Employees tend to sorry about that spelling mistake there, feel more involved, I need another E, with the business, and maybe more loyal to it as well. It can feel like a really friendly culture when there's a democratic leadership style. Okay, now we're going on to the monetary forms. We're leaving the non-monetary forms, and we're looking at remuneration methods. Remuneration just means kind of payment methods to work out how much you're going to pay an individual. So first of all, we're going to go over these types of methods, which is if you do A, I will give you B. So piece rate is where someone is paid a fixed amount for producing each unit of work. So if someone says, okay, you're producing kettles or something, I'm going to pay you £2 for every kettle that you produce. And if you produce 10, you're going to get £20, and so on. It's quite similar to commission, but commission is usually when you're working in a service industry, and this is when someone earns a percentage of the sales revenue usually earned. So if you sell 15 units, you might get 10% of the revenue to keep for yourself. 10% would be quite a high commission rate actually, but estate agents often work on commission, so they get a percentage of the sale. A bonus is a similar method as well to these, and this is an amount of money paid for achieving a certain objective. So all of these methods are do A and you will get B, B being the reward. So the good thing about this is you get a specified output as a business. Pay is really tied to that output. So if you're looking for people to produce a large amount of output, and it's let's say production in terms of producing goods, then a piece rate would work quite well. If you're a service sector working in retail and you want to increase the sales made, commission again works well. Maybe if you're a manager and you want a manager to achieve a greater market share, and you say, okay, we're going to give you £20,000 bonus if you can increase the market share by 1%, that manager, maybe marketing manager, is going to think about all the ways that they could increase the market share. So you really can tie someone's pay to how much they earn and their behaviour as well. So you're getting to motivate an employee by specifying a certain behaviour that you want to see. However, it can lead to poor quality and unintended consequences. This is a good phrase here that we use in economics. So I'll tell you a story. I used to work at a call centre, and I'm not going to tell you which one because it's a bad story. I used to work at a call centre, and I knew that my performance was measured by looking at how many calls I answered in an hour. So when I'd not answered many calls within an hour, sometimes what I used to do is just answer the calls and hang up, because then I could get through more calls. I could just keep on answering, hang up. So that's unintended consequences, but that's what my performance was measured on. So really lacking in quality there. So it can cause some problems, and sometimes as well you'll notice probably when you're in a shop and someone's working on commission, because they're usually very pushy. Okay, another method would be being paid an hourly wage. So for example, £7.50 an hour. In terms of benefits, it provides a little bit more security for somebody than a piece rate method. And this can be motivational, because a piece rate method maybe causes a lot of insecurity. So working on commission or piece rate, or if the bulk of your pay is made up of bonuses, can mean it's very uncertain how much you're actually going to get paid. So it provides that security in terms of pay, because workers have quite a good idea of what they'll earn as well. However, it doesn't provide a direct incentive to increase output or quality. You're just being paid for how many hours you work there. So you could be producing a really bad product and not working very hard, and you're just there for a long time and getting quite a good pay. Salary is very similar, but it's a fixed annual sum paid monthly. The benefit of, just going back to this one, the benefit of an hourly wage is if you work overtime, you get paid more, whereas usually if you work more than your normal hours with a salary, you don't always get paid overtime. So again, it provides security in terms of pay, what you're going to get paid, but again, it doesn't provide a direct incentive to increase output or quality. So I, as a teacher, get paid a salary, and our teacher's pay scale is a bit funny, but I earn as much as I can in my job now. So it doesn't matter if all my students get A stars or they all fail the exam. Well, it does, obviously it matters to me because I wouldn't want them to fail, but it won't have any effect on my pay, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for me, but I'm very confident all my students will do very, very well because they're very hardworking. And to make this work really well, what you need is to have an appraisal method or system where next year's salary is determined by how well you've performed this year. But some businesses have just said, in teaching, we don't always have very good appraisal systems. So it's not very motivational in terms of monetary motivation. But of course, not everyone's motivated by money, and that's very, very important to remember. Lots of people are motivated by different factors. Profit sharing is another method where people receive a share of the annual profit in terms of a bonus. So the benefit of this is it can make managers act as though they are shareholders. So it reduces that, what we call the divorce of ownership and control, which I went through when we were looking at the legal structure. And the disadvantage might cause the manager to make decisions to maximize short-term profits, so maybe unethical practices to increase those profits rather than focusing on the long-term strength of the business and the ethical doing what's right and securing business in the long run. Okay, that's motivation.